going to be, what I'm mentioning now is going to be tied into some of these things here that I'm dealing with, some of the previous cultures that was left here and the technologies that they've used, all right, and what that means to us now in terms of the whole big thing about, as people keep talking about, the mother plane. But what system do that mother plane belong to, and how often does it make its debut in our system? Because it works on a time frame. And yes, it is mentioned in the Old Testament. Yes, it's mentioned in the Quran. Yes, it's mentioned in the New Testament. New Testament refers to it as what? The planet of wormwood, right? But this thing is actually a battle star. It says it's somewhere about 4 times the size of Earth. All right? And it is what they use to destroy the planet in the system called Maldek when your reptoids and dinoids took off from here to go there to make that what they call a battle fortress to hold off the eventual move of humans coming into the system. See, humans haven't always been here, in spite of what they told you. They may find remains 3 million years old, but they are not us. Don't you even think about getting lost in that. And all this hype about Atlantis, I suggest y'all be leery of anybody talking to you about Atlantis, because they were not the good guys. Remember, the Atlanteans destroyed the Lemurians. The Lemurians were the good guys. The Atlanteans were also black folks, but they were power hungry and they came from a negatively oriented star system where they were into power hungry. They were into that. And the Egyptians, sadly putting it, later on fell under the control of the Atlanteans. And then they started to pay homage and worship. That's why when people try to get into decoding this, what's going on here, they're a little bit lost in terms of, well, wait a minute. The Hebrews, who allegedly was in Egypt, started calling on what they call the God of Israel. But yet you can come over here and talk to the Native Americans who are remnants of the Lemurian race, and they call on the same power, or recognize the same power that the Hebrews did. And the native, quote-unquote, Native Americans is hundreds of thousands of years older than the Israelites. And the Israelites didn't even walk over here first. So obviously this bunk about this thing is a religious argument is mute. If you study Native American culture and you study language, you will find they pay respect to the same deity. And they are not, quote-unquote, Jews. So I just got to tell you, something is up. Allegedly, the Native Americans is from one of the 5 planets within Sirius. That's another point. So it would stand to reason if, quote-unquote, the Hebrews, earlier Hebrews, or quote-unquote Israelites, are now calling on the same deity, and the Hebrew race itself is from out of the Sirius star system, another planet. There would stand to reason that they all perhaps adhere to the same type of culture in that star system. Different planets that are inhabited, that's all we're talking about. But amongst the Atlanteans were heavily involved with some of these renegades here, your dinoids and your reptoids, who were already living on the surface of this planet already. And they did damage to a lot of life forms that was here already. I'm talking about when they showed up, they were all about war. This is stuff that you just don't hear about. But yet, many of the books that used to be part of the Old Testament that I went into last week points out that, yes, your titans, that's another way that they call them, that's how they refer to them, titans. The war between the gods. I was reading, and I don't know exactly how true it is, and let me just stop and pause. Any information that we expound on in this class setting at any time that you don't feel comfortable with, and I mean you don't feel comfortable, I don't want you to say, listen, I feel very uncomfortable about that, but you're not going to take yourselves out and look it up and find out if in fact it's true. We want you to come up with sound arguments. Now, so far, what's been working in our favor is this. The nonsense, and I'm calling it what it is, the nonsense and stuff that has been, quote-unquote, expounded on and fed to us all this time, if you really think about it, there is no realism in it. You can't point and show it anywhere. Yes, continental drift theory, my ass.